Right now, we're going to bring on our next guest. We've got Noy Mahoney joining us, our Borderlands reporter, to talk about the Canadian Trucking Alliance and how they're doing some work to fight fraud. Noy, thank you for joining us this morning. What can you tell us about this program and their quest to find more fraudulent drivers?
Yes, the Canadian Trucking Alliance wants drivers to report fraudulent carriers who are using a tax avoidance scheme known as Driver Incorporated. Driver Incorporated involves a carrier telling a driver to register as a corporation and turn around and sell their driving services back to that company. The alliance has set up, the Canadian Trucking Alliance has set up a tip sheet and reporting mechanism so drivers can report, so drivers can know what to report when they feel like they see fraudulent activity going on. And the tip sheet and reporting mechanism is also for carriers who are operating legally, and they think if they think they see as well fraudulent carriers operating in the industry, to go ahead and turn around and report them.
And knowing we're looking at this Driver Inc. scam or system going on, how long has it been around? Has it been something that's been plaguing the industry in Canada for some time now?
It's been going on for, at least from what I've been hearing about from Canadian officials, at least 5 to 10 years or more. It's been something that's building and increasing every year. Some of the trucking associations in Canada think it costs the Canadian government as much as $1 billion a year in lost taxes. So what happens is when these fraudulent carriers use this Driver Incorporated business model, they don't have to pay taxes. They don't have to pay health benefits to these drivers. And in a lot of cases, what happens is they don't even obey wage laws, such as they'll withhold wages. They won't pay drivers what they're owed. The Canadian government or Canadian authorities released some data that showed from 2021 to 2022, fraudulent carriers withheld as much as $9 million in wages from drivers during that period. So it's a very serious problem.
So, Noy, the last time that we talked about Driver Inc., and we talked about that wage number that came up from the Canadian government, which was staggering, of course, we mentioned a little bit how younger drivers and drivers who are getting into the industry for maybe the first time are particularly prone to finding themselves in these types of Driver Inc. scenarios where they get maybe signed on with a fraudulent carrier and they don't necessarily know better. Is there any provisions in this program specifically that maybe do a little bit of that activism work to kind of educate some of these newer drivers, show them the red flags and make them understand, okay, this is what a good carrier looks like versus this is what a fraudulent carrier looks like?
Yeah, there's a lot of grassroots organizations in the Canadian trucking industry, especially around the Toronto area, where a lot of freight activity happens. And as you mentioned, a lot of younger drivers are coming into the industry, and a lot of them are immigrants from India and other countries who are just looking for a job in a lot of cases. So these community grassroots organizations are sort of educating younger drivers, what to look for. One of the big signs, obviously, is if a company comes and asks you to sign this paperwork saying you're a corporation independent operator, even though you're basically a full-time employee of that company. That's a major red flag right there. Other things are, telling drivers not to, talk to other drivers about how much you're making or what you're doing. It's sort of that, trying to cut off drivers from communicating with each other, which is another way of sort of keeping secret what, these Driver Incorporated tax scheme carriers are doing. So it's really about, educating drivers on what to look for, and that there is a way, even if they, get involved in these sort of Driver Incorporated schemes, there's still a way to report on these companies. There's a lot of federal authorities that you can reach out to. You can reach out to the Canadian Trucking Alliance. So there's a lot of ways to help this situation.
And Noy, speaking about resources, can you tell us about another gathering, excuse me, by Justice for Truck Drivers that recently happened around this issue?
Yeah, they had a rally right outside of one of the Canadian, I think it's the finance ministry in Toronto. and they were trying to highlight some of the things we just talked about with drivers, wage theft. I think they had something like 40 drivers present at that rally, which took place right at the very end of right in August, actually, and they were trying to highlight that several different carriers that using this driver incorporated scheme had withheld wages from these drivers. I think the total was like 300,000 or 400,000 range for just particularly this group of drivers, and they all of these drivers had a chance to speak and share their stories, and they were all sort of similar in a way that they were very young, as Haley pointed out, and they were sort of new to Canada, new to the trucking industry, and they had been taken advantage of by fraudulent carriers, just not paying their wages, not paying health benefits, really not looking out for these drivers' best interest.
So, Noe, with these carriers that do get caught under this program, are they looking at civil penalties, criminal penalties, or is that still kind of to be seen?
In a lot of cases, it's civil penalties. And that's one of the criticisms from Canadian Trucking Alliance and trucking industry in general, is that the penalties aren't severe enough for carriers that commit this kind of fraud, because in a lot of cases, from what people in the industry have told me, it's almost like when you get caught, it's just a slap on the wrist, and they might lose their operating authority for a short period of time, or they might lose it permanently, but that this company can still go on, or this carrier can still go on and get another operating authority number. So the penalties need to be more severe. That's something that everybody in the trucking industry says, to really crack down on this type of behavior.
No, thanks so much for bringing to light some more of this Canadian news and the system going on over there. We'll be sure to follow up with you as this continues to develop. And before we let you go, I know you saw the intro with Isaiah Buchanan. Are you a fan of the Thanksgiving pizza?
I have to say I am. I'm a fan of any pizza in any form, so I might try it.
There you go. All right, Noe, thank you for joining us this morning. We will see you in Chattanooga next week as well. Right now, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.